whatever. I'm so happy to be here this morning.
Sherry,
Well,
I can't tell you how excited I am and how thrilled I am and how I feel so honored to have you as my guest today. So
really,
thank
wow.
you. Thank you.
And where are you? I forgot. And you're in
I'm
the East
in
Coast?
I'm in Maine. Yep,
That's what
East
I thought,
Coast.
Maine. It's so beautiful up there.
It it is. It it's gorgeous today, and I live right in the middle of 30 acres surrounded by woods, and it's
Ah,
lovely.
it must
And
be
in the
heaven.
wintertime, when the snow comes, it stays pristine and white down here. It doesn't get all, we're not near the road. So, yeah, it's a good place.
Oh, how long have you been there?
47 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. We moved up here 2 years after we were married, and we're celebrating our, well, 48 years because we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Well,
You
thank
are a
you.
miracle. The two of you are a miracle. You know, a long-term relationship now is about between 5 months and 5 years.
I know. You know, you always have your ups and downs, your ins and outs, but what it comes down to, I think, is knowing what's really important.
Yes.
And yeah, so our relationship was very important, and there were a lot of um, conciliations
Yes.
and letting go of different things. And when it's important, we stand up for it. So
You,
anyway, all good.
you two are miracles. Honestly, you're a miracle, especially in these time frames. Wow.
Well, we're lucky. We're very, very lucky. There's no question. We had a lot of support along the way, and yeah, very lucky. So, how about yourself? Where you're in Arizona, in
I'm in Arizona.
Phoenix,
Yes, I'm in Scottsdale,
on
and
Scottsdale.
and through the sadness of in 1991 I had an accident, a near death experience, but there, you know, I've had five, but there's no accidents. So I ended up with a broken neck and a broken back and a smashed head and a brain out of place. We did not know my brain was out of place. And so I had flown my own airplane. I'd been sued for alimony. I mean, really, it was amazing, and did all kinds of stuff. And I lost everything. I mean, everything. And I came to Scottsdale. I mean, how bold, lots of cojones or something, with my last $50 and didn't know anybody. And just
This
said,
is in the 1990s,
this is 1970, 1997.
1997.
And
Wow.
I said, I'm going to start all over again. And, you know, my family thought I was nuts because I had changed, you know, in their idea, but it is whatever it is. But I'm so grateful.
Well, indeed, you know, I think that's when we start to grow, when we can start to stand in our power
Yes.
and actually say, okay, I am no longer going to be the person that everybody else wants me to be. I'm going to find out who I am,
Yes.
which most women have lost,
Oh,
including me.
exactly. And but I knew at 3 who I was. But the thing is, my mother didn't know who I was or who I is at the moment. It was very challenging. So I say the poor woman survived my childhood, but that was okay. It was good for her. And along the way, I've always had an outrageous sense of humor because it just, my sense of humor actually, I would say, saved me. Maybe not anybody else, but it saved me from going, oh my gosh, this is like ridiculous.
Thank goodness for a good sense of humor. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I find myself, I have a good sense of humor as long as it's kind.
Yes.
It has to be kind. And you know, not to be mean, not cruel humor,
Yes.
not
Not cruel.
self-degrading humor,
Yes.
but but recognizing that, hey, this too shall pass, sort of thing. You know?
And I use humor with my clients and I call it rattling their molecules.
Oh, I like that. I like
So I
that.
rattle, so I'll say outrageous stuff to them and I start laughing and then they start laughing because you know what? Laughter is the best medicine. And
It,
what it does, it gives them a sense of, they start relaxing even though they don't know it at the moment, but it gives them a different pattern of their energy. So,
Mhm.
so I really love a sense of humor.
Yeah, you got to have it. You got to have it. It makes life very difficult if you don't. So,
Yeah, I know.
um,
And I see things probably in a different way and always have. And so from those experiences, I would find things funny that people wouldn't think were funny, but I couldn't help it. So I'd just be laughing to myself inside. Now I'll laugh outside. I don't care. Or why do people
oh, we can do it
say those
outside
things?
too.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
not outside.
oh,
But
Sherry.
anyway, but thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited.
Well, I am too. I am thrilled. And your last name is Ashera. Is that how I
No,
pronounce it?
Anshara. Anshara.
Anshara. Anshara.
It's a name I picked up after my third near-death experience. Don't ask me. I'm not a woo-woo girl at all. Like, I'm based on science. That's all there is to that. But these things happen to me all my life. So, you know,
You have to,
even when yeah, it just is what happens.
uh, I like the science behind it. I want to understand the science behind it. But then sometimes and it's only been really in the last couple of years, maybe even the last year. I went right down the tubes last year and I said, okay, I gotta live somehow
Yeah.
and just resign myself to the fact that I will never be happy. And learn how to live with it. And it was like the universe came to me and said, girl, we need to shift this around. This is not what you're meant to do. You are on the right track, and we need to lift you up so you can get back on that pony and go where you were being directed, because this is what you were meant to do.
Absolutely. That's what happens. We just have those experiences that we create, but sometimes we don't know we're creating them. But it just happens. And that's the best part about it. When I call it, maybe we got smacked upside the head or whatever.
Well, that was it. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. All right, so okay, we'll move on. It's not science. But I'm getting the message.
I know that's the best way. And it sounds lovely, lovely where you live on all that acreage. Do you farm some of it, or is it just all wild?
It's all wild.
Oh my
We have
gosh,
we have
it's gotta
trees
be.
down all over the place, and we just say, you know what? It's in the woods. It'll stay in the woods.
Oh my God, that is just. And are you very far from town?
We're about 20 miles from the state capital, and that's our
Wow.
nearest town. Yeah, our town is uh, mm, pushing 2,000.
Isn't that wonderful?
So I feel very blessed. When we moved here 47 years ago, my husband and I said, I'll live wherever you want to live, except Oklahoma. I won't live. And why Oklahoma? I don't know. I've never been to Oklahoma, but I didn't want to live there. Anyway, I said, I'll live anywhere you want, as long as I can get to a city at least twice a year. Boston, DC, New York, somewhere.
Yeah.
And that worked very, very well until the last 10 years or so. And I said, I don't need to go to Boston, New York, or DC. I'm happy right where I am. This is good. I got my online business. I'm learning how to heal people, and that feels so good.
I know. I know.
So, well, I again, thank you so much. And before we can continue, do I have your permission to use the video part of this
Oh
on
yes,
my YouTube channel?
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Sherry, I've been telling everybody how excited I am about meeting you today. So without further ado, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
All right. So, hey, I'm Karen Stoltz. Welcome to the Awesome Life podcast. I'm here today with Sherry and Anshara. She is an international best-selling author, a professional speaker. She is a radio host, or a former radio host of Conscious Healing, and a contributing writer to national and international publications on the subject of the Anshara method of accelerated healing and abundance, and just overall wellness. I love that. I love that. She is a speaker on wellness and wealth through the organizational consciousness, which I absolutely adore. And she utilizes her experience and her expertise as a medical intuitive as the foundation of her groundbreaking work with the cellular memory, which is so interesting to me. And she calls this work the Anshara method. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And tell us more about the Anshara method.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here. Well, it sort of happened as a fluke. Does that make sense? So in 1991, I had an accident, quote, accident, and I did have a broken neck and a broken back and a smashed head and a brain out of place, but we didn't know my brain was out of place till a few years later. And so, you know, I had all these dire predictions. Now, I'm not talking about from a psychic or something, but this is from the medical model, which I work with a lot of doctors. And so with these dire predictions, I thought, well, this can't work for me. This just doesn't work. And so this is really how it got started. You know, like some people have like an epiphany. I said, you know, when you meet epiphany and you're going to like go out and save the world. I did not have that. Really, this was not about anybody else. It was all about me. It's all about me. And so
it's about me.
Yes, and I thought, I don't care about you. I just care about me. I'm in a mess. I'm in a mess. And so I thought, well, you know, this is their idea, not judging them or wronging them in any way, because that's the information they have. But this is what I discovered as I was examining my body, and I'm a mess laying in this hospital bed. I thought, you know what? When you cut yourself, you don't have to think about your cut healing. Now, you could put a, antibiotic on it or something, but if you don't, the body heals. Because what if you're out or a kid, you know, you scratch your knees or you bump your head and it heals. And I thought, you know what? What's the difference between a skin cell and a cell in my bones? There has to be something intelligent about that. And that's why years later I came up with organizational consciousness, because your body is organized when you are conscious. It's not so organized when we get emotional. And through that process, I actually developed, at first it was called quantum pathic. I was trying to hide out. It was the quantum path I see within me. And then a few years ago, the doctors and my clients said, you know what, Sherry, put your name on it, own it, because that's what you did. So when I started writing about cellular memory in 1991, how do you suppose that was received? I was patted on the head and here, take a pill, you'll feel better. Where do you get these ideas? But how I came to it, like the body, it must know something. There has to be a memory. And that's when I came up with the idea of cellular memory. And then I came up with even something more outrageous called cellular memorization. So a memorization, I came to the idea, was a belief system. So you will love it, Karen. So what's the first letter of the word belief?
B.
And the first letter of the word system?
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And wait a minute, there's got to be some BS going on here. You know what I mean? I'm not wronging it, but there's got to be BS going on here. What? So like, that's when I saw a difference between believing, like I really believe this, And so I looked at it from a perspective. I had been an entrepreneur. I had been in the corporate world. You know, I had done all kinds of stuff that I didn't know I was supposed to do. So this is just a short example. When I turned 30, I thought I'd like to learn how to fly an airplane. So my mother and my sister, who's a lot older, she's 12 years older, said, well, number one, you're a girl. Really? I had no idea. And that you're too old. I'm 30, too old. Well, not only did I learn to fly, I bought an airplane. And people said, how did you buy an airplane? I go, well, how do you buy a car? You put so much down. You know, the belief system says you can, but the believing says you put something down and once a month you get a bill. I don't know. That's how you pay your gas bill or electric bill, whatever. And then eventually it gets paid for because it's a thing like a car or whatever.
It doesn't have to be hard, does it? It just has to be done and believed. Yeah. Or not believed. Yeah.
Exactly. So when I started writing about this, no one would publish my books. Nobody, not anybody, because it didn't fit a category. It wasn't self-help in their idea. It wasn't metaphysical in their idea. It wasn't science-based at all. And you are writing about stuff that is ridiculous, that doesn't make any sense. So what happened is, excuse me, I started self-publishing, which wasn't a good thing. Now, in that interim, because of the accident, I couldn't operate the same way. And so I lost everything. I mean, everything, everything. And I got to Arizona in 97 with my last $50. But this is the interesting part between 91 and 97, those 6 years. Though I was homeless, but this woman met me and she said, I invite you into my home. And for years, she took care of me. I'm not kidding you, a stranger, but we have been the besties ever since. Ever since. And it sort of saved her life. I don't mean save, but it gave her a different perspective in this bonding that we had. So through this experience, this is hilarious. People started asking me if I could help them. I said, are you nuts? My life has fallen apart and you would like me to help you? I go, obviously, you require some sort of therapy. But they said there's something different about you. So I would do a session, what we call the session. I didn't know what else to call it. And so I said, no, don't tell anybody. And then they would tell somebody. And then someone else would call me. I go, this is ridiculous. And then 8 women came into my life. And this was in 1990, almost 1996. And they didn't know each other except 2. Isn't this hilarious? And they asked if I would teach them something. I go, now I know they're crazy. They definitely. And I said, they're sick. They're absolutely sick. So I was denied it. So I said, okay, I'll teach you something for 8 weeks. I had no idea what I was going to teach them for 8 weeks, but I was writing a book. So I said, okay. And then they offered to pay me money. Not like the big bucks I was making in business in the corporate world. And I go, you're going to actually pay me? You know, like,
you're going to pay me to teach you?
And I don't even know what I'm teaching you. So I took the information out of the book that I was writing on a 286 computer, if anybody even remembers that. This is hilarious. The class lasted 13 months. Every week they came. Snowstorms, it didn't matter. And from there, it was like I found my calling, if you want to call it a calling. And then I finally end up with a job. I'm so excited. I got a corporate job. I'm going to be back in the you know what. Oh, yay. And within 6 months, I got my intuitive hit. It said, you're going to move to Arizona. I go, are you crazy? I don't get it. So with my last amount of money, I ended up in Arizona in 97 with my last $50 and didn't know anybody. But you know what? But I had the guts. I said, you know what? Anshara method of accelerated healing in abundance. I said, I'm going to move to Scottsdale. That is like not Snottsdale, but the Scottsdale part, that there is an abundance, a wealth there, not just money, but a wealth consciousness. And so that's what I did.
That is fascinating. So, off on an aside, I want to get back to your experience there, but and what you do, but off on an aside, I've been told that in Scottsdale now, because it is so full of the spiritual consciousness,
Yes.
that it's not the same as back in 1997.
It was not, but it's changed a lot. And
Yeah.
so what I find, see, we look at the word sort of spiritual as like woo-woo, but I feel the word spiritual really means common sense. It just means, and to me, intuition isn't woo-woo. Intuition, and this is how I teach it to business people, kids get it first, that intuition is our natural innate ability to discern not what's right or wrong, but is it correct for you or not? I just had a client that I adore call me this morning, and she found a new house and she loved it. But behind her house are huge power lines. Because she knows about energy and the affect, effect, and then infect. She said, Sherry, I love this house, but when I drove up, I started having these weird feelings. Feeling is here, thinky is here. And so I said, well, give it a shot. Personally, I wouldn't buy it because these are just not power lines. Those are the big grid ones. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah,
huge ones.
absolutely. The huge transmission ones. Yeah.
Yes, and I said, you know, and to get a house now here, I think someone told me that it's like 67% they don't have homes here because there's such an influx of people moving here from all over. And what I also found, you know, that our best resorts are booked up to the hilt because people are moving in and looking. And so I said, I know that you found this, but energy is a byproduct. That's all it is, of either being conscious or being in the belief systems, the BS. And so I said, trust your intuition. When you go in the house, sit in different parts of the house, go out in the backyard, and how does it feel to you? Don't think about it. And I said, I know that it's really difficult to find a house right now, but you know what? Perhaps this one isn't for you. And maybe it is. But you have to understand that if that has an influence on your body. And she's very, very healthy, and she's also in the healthcare industry. And she's been through many of my classes and all kinds of things. So she has an awareness. And she said when she pulled up, she started having this weird feeling. Intuition
And being open to it. And that electrical energy, I can feel it. I know I was in a panic when my daughter bought a house about 2 streets from the power line. And I said, just like you're talking about. And I was very concerned, but I said, okay, it's not on the power line. So find a way to let it go, girl. This is their house. And they didn't stay there very long. They did move somewhere else. Yeah.
Yes. Because I would believe that's probably their body telling them it's time to move.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell me, as a medical intuitive, that is a very interesting thing. How do you do that?
Well, interesting. I got assigned that by the medical community because when some of the doctors first discovered that I was talking about cellular memory, you know, they thought it was nuts. But then after the transplants hit and people were getting actually the memory in those organs, and there was a famous case of the champagne and caviar lady that received the organ of a beer guzzling, pizza eating, motorcycle guy, and she began to love beer and pizza because she got his heart. And the heart, of course, is our real mind, not this computer brain. And so in that idea, I actually have the ability to see inside people's bodies, and I do a lot of remote work where across the country, even in Europe. But I have the ability to connect to someone and get to the core of the issue. All disease is emotional. I just co-authored a book with a friend of mine, and all I wrote about was from A to Z, the emotionality of every disease. And every disease in emotions are what make us sick. And so there's a keyword out now or two that called emotional intelligence. Honestly, without judging it, there's not 1 ounce, not one molecule of intelligence and emotions. There isn't. And so it gets this goofy. And so because I have this ability, could I show you some examples?
I would love that. That would be fantastic, Sherry. Thank you.
When I got published in a medical journal 4 times, these are actually blood cells. Can you see those?
Yep, sure can.
And these are about 8 years old, and that's how the doctor took them. But I blew them up. But these are a mess. This is.
And by the way, to our listeners, this is a podcast, so they're only hearing the audio. But you can go to my YouTube channel and see our entire conversation and the photographs that.
But isn't that amazing? These are really sick cells. And so this was 3 months later. These are actually perfect cells.
Wow,
and
look at that.
I know, really perfect. And so the doctor called and said, "What are you doing?" And so we laughingly said, I said, "Well, the first set, this is called BS, before Sherry, and this is AS after Sherry." Which he loved, but there was no supplements, no drugs, anything, because it was about assisting her, not helping, assisting her to comprehend how she got sick. So I'll show you a couple other pictures that are mind-blowing, really mind-blowing. And so here is a person. These were her legs. And these are legs. Can you see this? I'll stand up.
I surely can. Ooh, ow. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that awful?
Oh, wow.
So that's diabetes and gangrene. And guess what the methodology would be? To cut her leg off.
Right.
And so this gal is a hairdresser, but overweight. Well, if you cut her leg off, what's going to happen?
Yeah, she'll lose everything, right?
Totally. So her sister is one of my best friends. And so this was 4 hours later on her leg.
Sherry, oh my gosh.
But that's the body's ability. So here's another gal. I'm going to sort of cut out her eyes here. But can you see that tumor?
Yes, that.
On both sides. That's cancer. That's cancer. And then here is 4 days later.
Nothing. Oh my goodness gracious.
That's 4 days later.
So if you kind of knock out the belief system and recognize, I have learned in the last few years, well, 10 years, that indeed disease is simply a dis-ease in the body. Yes. And it's usually because we have the emotions, we have those intuitions, we have the knowledge, and we have totally ignored it. And finally, our body says, and please disagree with me because I love discussions, but then our body says, "Hey, I'm going to smack you across the head if you're not going to listen to me and really take care of yourself and address these issues. We're going to stop you in your tracks until you hear us."
Yes, because pain in the body of whatever it is, whether it's a tumor or cancer or addiction or all of that, or depression, anxiety, is the body's attempt to get our attention.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not life-threatening. So here's a picture of a gal. This is what she looked like. Can you see this?
Yep, sure can.
And she
wow, look at that.
But this is the best part. This is what she looks like now.
Oh, she's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Totally. And so what this was about they did all the tests. She went to Mayo, they did. And then I have to say, one of her smart doctors said, "I know who you have to go see." And within just hours. And so as she took my classes and we worked, it really was emotional. It was about what she didn't like to see.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't anything, an allergy, her blood work was perfect, but it was about not liking what she saw.
Isn't that fascinating? And honestly, I can tell you from experience, I looked just like that woman a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And recognizing what was going on with the knowledge that, hey, all right, body, what are you trying to tell me? And what do I need to do to shift this? Because this is not satisfactory for me right now. But I also know I brought it on myself. So what do I need to shift?
Exactly.
And I said, okay, I'm willing to do that. And when I was willing to do that and made the shift, the next day it was like, oh, I like this lady. I like this lady in the mirror now.
And that's what makes the difference, is our willingness to connect to ourselves, our absolute willingness to connect to ourselves. And when we're not willing, then the body has to do something more, to get our attention or whatever. But the usual protocol is, let's take a pill, or let's take the, no, I'm not wronging that in any way. But I would more support finding out first what it is. So now we have a bottom line, and now we know where we can start brand new, not to recreate all of the other old stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are actually helping people see and clear those old cellular memories that are protecting but not serving.
Yes, and it's really the memorization of it. So years ago when I was in school, this was so crucial and key, but it took how many years for me to get it. But I raised my hand in history class, and I was little, and what the teacher was teaching history, and said Columbus discovered America. And I didn't have a problem, but I raised my hand and said, well, how come people were living here? And he looked at me, and this is what he said: memorize it and pass the test. And that stuck in me. Memorize it and pass the test. But years later, I realized he memorized it to memorize us, not judging it. But that put me on a quest, and the library became my friend. And I'm not talking about the school library. I'm talking about the big people's library. So I was always reading books like far ahead of my time frame, for whatever. And I read history books. I read things about Russia and, China. And I was little. And because I was looking for some kind of a consistency or some sort of facts. There had to be something more than just, well, this is what happened. So I have a tagline: you can't change the what till you get to the why. So I always wanted to know what the why is. That's the fork in the road. Do I continue this way, or can I do a better journey than what I was doing before without judging it?
Isn't it? It's a choice, isn't it? You have to make that choice.
Yes, and that was the choice. And so I wasn't wronging him, but it stuck in me for all those years. And that's when this accident happened. I recognized the difference between cellular memory and the memorization of this is how you have to do it. And how it affects or effects or infects. So the lady with the leg problem, they came from a very abusive household, not wronging it in any way, but my friend escaped when she was very young, left home at 16 or something, 17, and is very successful, beautiful. But this sister stayed home and in the alcoholism and the abuse. And the weight gain is not just about protection. People think the weight gain is about protection. It's really about hiding. It's about hiding. If no one notices me, then I will, this won't happen to me. But that establishes patterns of then abuse.
And they do need to recognize that indeed it is possible. I know, again, for myself, is that in my coaching world, they'd say, you're playing the victim. Yes. And I thought, I'm no victim. I'm not playing any victim. Come on. And after about 15 years, I said, oh, dang it. That's why I'm not moving ahead.
Yes.
They've told me that for the last 15 years, but I was playing victim.
Yes.
And now I'm willing to accept that that is not only a possibility
Mhm.
or a probability, but it, yeah, in some ways, I guess I was. So now let's move ahead. Let's make a change. Let's take that different fork in the road. Yeah.
Yeah, and the best part of it, because I listen deeply to people, I don't hear them because it's up here, but here I listen. But you said the best word, willing. When people come to me and they say, Sherry, I'm ready, and I go, yeah, get out of here, you're not ready. I go, ready for what? But when you're willing, that's when it all begins to open. That resonance, because it's about resonance, frequency and vibration are byproducts. Energy is a byproduct of either belief systems or consciousness. But I love when someone says, I'm willing, then I know that we're going to get right in.
Get right into it. Well, this is wonderful, and I'm so grateful. And to our listeners, I have to share with you, Sherry and I met online in one of the Facebook groups, and we connected. And out of the blue, through whatever, we were supposed to meet, and she called me at the only time I had available that day to talk. And we were able to talk, and I said, my gosh, Sherry, I want you on my podcast.
And I didn't even know you had one.
And she's so gracious. It's all meant to be. So I hope that we will continue our conversation at a future time. And thank you. Thank you. So, oh my gosh, I'm not even thinking. I have all your information, but our listeners don't. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to my website. It's Sherry Anshara, Sherry, Anshara, Anshara, SherryAnshara.com, or my office is 480-609-0874. And if you go to my website, you can sign up for a 10-minute complimentary session. And I also have an ebook, and it's called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes.
Oh, I just downloaded it.
Oh,
great book. Great book.
And so there's all different ways I work with people on the phone. I'm up to probably about 22% now of people over the phone. And I would say I have never met them. But I get referrals from doctors, and I just I would just like to say one more thing. Psychiatry and psychology work in the subconscious, which is okay. It's great. But if you look at your body as a house, your closet, your garage, your attic, that's sort of the subconscious. You know you've got to clean it out. But where I assist you is to get in the unconscious where the stuff got stuck. And so we can unstick it.
I love it. I love it. We'll get that unconscious unstuck.
Into conscious organization.
I love it. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, any last words, or that is the last word? That's what you do. That is what you do so magnificently. And Sherry, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I feel really honored. I appreciate it. And you're so fun.
Right back at you. I love to laugh, and you really make things laughter and fun. So, and that's what this podcast is all about: learning, sharing, letting people know that fun is number one.
Yes, and when this is posted, let me know, and I'll share it all over.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again, Sherry. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Sherry, I absolutely adored it. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you for having me as a guest. I had so much fun.
You're the best. You're the best.
Yes, and we got to keep in touch.
I definitely, I appreciate that very much. There's somebody coming into my mind so much, and I'm thinking that you might be just the right person for her at this moment in time. So, you know, I'm definitely going to share the ebook and a 20-minute conversation.
Yes, I could. It says 10, but it never goes 10. It's usually 20. It's okay. I'm gonna say, and I'd be happy to do it for you too, just to see. I would love it, because then it's really amazing what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I need more clearing, that's for sure. I need to figure out, yeah, lots of stuff. So, and obviously we were meant to connect.
For sure.
Yeah.
So have a wonderful, and then tonight on Anshara on Facebook, I do my Facebook Live for about 20 minutes. And I'm going to talk about anxiety.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah, and tips, and it's at 5 o'clock my time, which is like 8 o'clock your time. But I'm going to talk about like some tools for anxiety, because I mean, look what's happening in this world right now. Make sense?
Absolutely. And I actually was doing it for the first 2 months. I was having lives on my Facebook group, Release, Recharge, Refocus, and using different techniques, tapping mostly to release. I love the tapping because it allows the anger to seep in. The angrier you are, the most frustrated you are, the more upset you are, that's when the tapping works best.
Yes. And just know that anxiety at the core is unrealistic expectations. And right now, it's not only unrealistic, we don't even know what the expectations are, which takes it to a deeper level.
It absolutely does. And the anxiety is, and guilt. That's a good definition for guilt too.
Yeah, it is.
Unrealistic expectations that are not being met. That is.
And they usually belong to somebody else.
90% of the time.
Yes, I'm going, what? So go have a fabulous day in Maine. I love it.
Thank you. Well, if you ever come to the East Coast, the Northeast, let me know. Love to have you.
It's beautiful up there. It really is. Okay, have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.